Hello and welcome back to our second section of notes. Last video left off covering the causes and how the Renaissance really starts and the factors that made it up, as well as some focus on literature during this time period. But now we're really going to take a deep dive into art during this time period. You may remember, if you watched the last video, that we talked about artistic ideals from this time period. Realism and secularism, this idea of individualism and humanism. So focusing on individual people, the achievements of man, creating realistic art that's not necessarily tied into religion. This really starts to permeate during this time. And one of the tools that a lot of artists use is this idea of perspective. If we're trying to demonstrate realistic looking art, one of the things that we need to be able to show is 3 dimensions. And in order to do that on a flat surface, some mathematical techniques have to be used in order to create an optical illusion so that the lines in which art is created looks like it has multiple dimensions or depth to it. With this, we see these art techniques used throughout so many pieces of art during this time. And it really is what makes these pieces of art, as well as the artists that create them, very, very famous. Now, these artists were people that were not only fantastic at painting or composing poetry or other literature, they were good at just about everything they did, to the point where we call these people, even today, Renaissance men or women. A Renaissance man being someone who excels in basically every field they could. You probably know people like this, or you have seen these people in pop culture. Leonardo da Vinci is kind of the key example of this. Not only was he an artist, but he was an inventor. He studied human anatomy and the human figure. He was an engineer. He was fantastic at just about everything that he did. You can kind of think about this almost like Shaquille O'Neal. He was a world-class NBA star on the basketball court, and now he is a professional DJ that plays sets all across events across the world and festivals, moonlighting as Diesel the DJ. So while Shaq is a great example of this, the key figure, the textbook example, is Leonardo da Vinci. So we'll take a little bit of time to watch this video so that we can consider why is he the quintessential Renaissance man.
The Mona Lisa, The Last Supper, The Vitruvian Man, just a few of the iconic works that made Leonardo da Vinci one of the most famous artists in history. But da Vinci was also a scientist, architect, sculptor, musician, engineer, and inventor who once said, "The knowledge of all things is possible." His boundless curiosity and achievements are the reasons da Vinci is still recognized as the ideal Renaissance man. Leonardo da Vinci was born an illegitimate child in the province of Vinci, Italy, on April 15, 1452. At 15, he apprenticed under the famous painter Verrocchio in Florence. There, he refined his skills and adapted his trademark sfumato, or smoky technique, which avoids harsh outlines. This technique gives da Vinci's paintings a unique depth. Eventually, he surpassed Verrocchio himself, who allegedly vowed never to pick up a paintbrush again after teaching the young Leonardo. In 1482, da Vinci became a professional painter in Milan. He completed The Virgin of the Rocks and The Last Supper shortly after his arrival. For The Last Supper, da Vinci used a new Renaissance technique called perspective that brought new realism to paintings by making distant objects smaller than those closest to the viewer. Da Vinci draws the viewer's eye to the space above Jesus, which gives it the illusion of great space and depth. During his 17 years in Milan, da Vinci finished only 6 paintings. Instead, he focused on various scientific studies. Da Vinci said, "Learning never exhausts the mind." He kept track of his ideas with meticulous illustrations and entries in a series of notebooks. These notebooks reveal da Vinci's true genius. Da Vinci drew plans for everything from churches and fortresses to water systems and bridges. For the Duke of Milan, he designed advanced weapons, including a tank and machine gun. Da Vinci's fascination with flight produced sketches for flying machines centuries before the first airplane was built. Da Vinci's interest in human anatomy was expressed in the Vitruvian Man, a drawing that explains the proportions of the human body. His study of anatomy brought a gripping realism to his paintings, especially the Mona Lisa, or La Gioconda, the Laughing One, which he finished around 1507. Fellow Renaissance painter Giorgio Vasari said that the Mona Lisa's smile was so pleasing that it seemed divine rather than human, and those who saw it were amazed to find that it was as alive as the original. Da Vinci's fame never subsided, even after his death in 1519. Crowds still wait in line to see the Mona Lisa at the Louvre Museum in France, just as writers, scientists, and historians continue to study his works and marvel at his genius. Da Vinci's advice for the development of a complete mind was study the science of art. Study the art of science. Develop your senses, especially learn how to see. Realize that everything connects to everything else. He did not see a divide between art and science and was perhaps one of the most diversely talented people who ever lived. It is for this reason that many call Leonardo da Vinci the first Renaissance man.
So again, Leonardo da Vinci is a great example of this. When we think about artists from this time period, there are so many that you could spend so long focused on them. There's four that I believe are the most important when you really think about this, and they're quite easy to remember, mainly because they share names with the four Ninja Turtles. You have Michelangelo, Raphael, Donatello, and Leonardo. These individuals produce very, very important and notable works of art. You have Michelangelo, who produces the statue of David out of marble and the Sistine Chapel in the Vatican. Raphael produces the School of Athens, very notable painting as well. Donatello also creates a statue of David, but his is focused more so in the skill of bronze work, as well as Leonardo da Vinci, which we talked about, and his creations such as the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper. I hope you stick around for our next section and final section in part 3, where we focus on the Northern Renaissance and the legacy and the effects of the Renaissance. Thanks again for listening. Hope to see you again soon.